A federal judge has issued an immediate directive requiring the restoration of a key historical display on slavery at Independence National Historic Park in Philadelphia. The National Park Service recently took down those panels following instructions tied to an executive action signed by President Trump earlier this year. In response, Philadelphia officials brought a legal challenge to force the material back into place. Reporters from local news outlets were present in court as both sides presented their positions. Just over a week after the removal of the slavery-related content from the president's house site in Old City, a large crowd filled the courtroom to follow the proceedings between city representatives and federal authorities. At the center of this dispute stands a Pennsylvania federal judge now tasked with ruling on whether the exhibit should return. The displays came down last week under the influence of that March directive from the president. Philadelphia responded swiftly by launching a lawsuit aimed at reinstatement. The courtroom itself was filled with concerned citizens and observers waiting to hear the detailed arguments from Philadelphia's legal team and the government side, coming so soon after the content was pulled from the historic location. What stands out here is the judge's strong response, an urgent order that takes effect without delay. The core issue revolves around efforts by the administration to eliminate references to slavery at this important site, substituting them with content focused on national pride and positive aspects of the founding era. The judge firmly rejected that approach, making it plain that historical records cannot be altered simply to avoid discomfort or to present a more comfortable version of the nation's story. The directive calls for immediate reinstatement of the original material. This decision represents a clear obstacle to broader efforts to reshape cultural discussions around American history, underscoring the role that independent federal courts continue to play in preventing any single administration from fully dictating how the public encounters its past. On this President's Day, developments have unfolded in the ongoing controversy surrounding the removal of slavery-focused content from the president's house location in Center City, Philadelphia. Anchors delivered the breaking news. A federal judge has sided with the city in its legal action, mandating that the exhibit be returned. Live reporting from Independence Mall captured the atmosphere, where supporters had assembled to call for the display's return. The timing aligned with the holiday honoring presidents, adding weight to the moment as crowds gathered in support of preserving the full historical record. The president's house holds deep significance as the residence used by George Washington while Philadelphia served as the national capital. The exhibit in question carefully documented the experiences of the 9 enslaved individuals who lived and worked there under his ownership. It included personal accounts, names, and details of courageous attempts, some successful, to reach freedom. This presentation brought forward a stark contrast at the heart of the country's origins. The leader celebrated as the father of the nation, whose likeness appears on currency, simultaneously held people in bondage, acknowledging that reality remains essential, even when difficult. The display had long presented those facts openly until recent administrative decisions led to their removal. Officials replaced the specific references to enslaved people with broader statements celebrating the patriotism of the founders and the greatness of the United States. Many observers found the timing particularly striking. Changes implemented just ahead of President's Day, seemingly allowing celebrations of Washington while omitting the reality of the enslaved individuals in his household. Critics describe it as an effort to sanitize the record, reminiscent of historical revisions seen in less democratic systems. Community leaders, along with civil rights advocates, moved quickly. They filed suit, asserting that public exhibits funded by taxpayers cannot have verified historical details removed to serve a particular political viewpoint. The federal judge responded without hesitation, granting an emergency directive that required full restoration of the exhibit at once. No delays for further review or appeals. In the written ruling, the court observed that the modifications appeared designed to minimize slavery's central place in the nation's early years, stressing that government authorities lack the authority to overlook or alter established facts in this manner. This ruling carries broader implications. It challenges an apparent strategy to influence public understanding of American history through what has been termed patriotic education, one that portrays the country and its early leaders in an idealized light, free of serious qualifications. Achieving that vision often involves reducing attention to painful elements, including the institution of slavery, the displacement of indigenous peoples, and other deep inconsistencies in the historical record. Courts have consistently intervened, affirming that federal resources cannot be used to enforce a cleaned-up version of events. This pattern appears across multiple areas. Judges have halted certain immigration measures, issued warnings regarding compliance with detention policies, protected voting access, and now compelled the preservation of accurate historical presentations. These actions repeatedly demonstrate boundaries on executive authority. The Philadelphia matter stands out for its clarity. Factual details about slavery were removed and exchanged for less specific patriotic messaging. The court declared such actions improper and ordered the immediate return of the accurate information. Consider the site itself, a National Park Service location at the very place where Washington resided during his time in office. For years, the exhibit provided in-depth information on the lives of those 9 enslaved people, their identities, daily realities, and paths some took toward liberty. Developed through extensive input from scholars, descendants, local residents, and advocacy organizations, the display aimed to offer a balanced view, honoring Washington's leadership while recognizing his role as an enslaver. That fuller context matters, especially given how much of American history education traditionally downplayed or sidelined the topic of slavery. In recent decades, scholars and teachers have worked to correct that imbalance, emphasizing that key figures in the founding generation participated in human bondage and that the nation's democratic ideals emerged alongside that system. For those who favor a simpler, more heroic account of origins, this shift proves challenging. The current administration has expressed discomfort with in-depth examinations of racial history, criticizing projects that highlight slavery's lasting impact, restricting certain educational materials, and establishing efforts to advance a particular interpretation of the past, one that minimizes difficult chapters. The decision to remove the slavery content from the president's house aligned with that larger aim. As a federally managed property, officials may have assumed limited pushback, yet the specific panels detailing the enslaved individuals, including stories like that of Ona Judge, who escaped and evaded recapture despite pursuit, were taken away. In their place came general references to founders' virtues and national pride, presenting a polished image that avoided the topic of bondage. The proximity to President's Day raised questions about intent, honoring the first president without addressing the enslaved people under his control. Local reaction came fast and firm. City council members, historians, and advocacy organizations expressed deep concern, viewing it as federal overreach, erasing important aspects of Black history in a public space. They argued that taxpayer-supported sites must not become venues for selective storytelling. An emergency legal filing followed, contending that such alterations violated public trust and legal standards. The judge concurred promptly, highlighting an apparent purpose to diminish slavery's role in shaping the republic. The order went beyond restoration. It required future modifications at the site to involve consultation with knowledgeable community historians, signaling a lack of confidence in unilateral administrative changes. This judicial intervention serves as a direct statement. Public historic spaces cannot function as platforms for selective narratives or government messaging that distorts facts. The swift action prevented prolonged exposure to an incomplete version during a key national observance. Public response has been notable. Many see this as evidence of broader concerns about truthfulness in official accounts, linking it to ongoing debates over race, policy, and institutional accountability. Communities affected by these issues, educators and advocates, view the ruling as affirmation that factual history deserves protection. The case reinforces the judiciary's function in maintaining balance. When executive actions appear to exceed proper limits, whether in historical interpretation, enforcement practices, or other domains, courts retain authority to intervene decisively. Looking ahead, the exhibit's return proceeds under the active order. The administration now faces practical and political considerations, compliance risks appearing checked, while further resistance invites scrutiny over defending alterations to documented events. Regardless of next steps, the episode has drawn national attention to the tension between political priorities and historical accuracy. It stands as a reminder that independent courts remain prepared to defend verifiable records against efforts to reshape them for advantage. In the end, this development highlights enduring safeguards. Truth in public education and historical presentation holds priority, and judicial oversight ensures that no administration can override it unchallenged. The line separating legitimate governance from overreach stays firmly in place.